In Ichino's academy, a prestigious institution for the brightest minds, there are two particularly genius students. Rizu Ogata, known as the supercomputer, excels in science and mathematics, and Fumino Furuhashi, a genius in literature and languages, often brings people to tears with her essays. Along with their talents, Fumino's beauty earns her the nickname Sleeping Beauty. Then there's Nariyuki Yuiga, a senior student who works tirelessly to maintain his grades. His goal is to receive a VIP recommendation, which would allow him to enter university without an entrance exam or tuition fees. One day, the headmaster calls Yuiga to his office and, after reviewing his grades, offers him the VIP recommendation under one condition: Yuiga must tutor Fumino and Rizu to help them get into the universities of their choice. Yuiga accepts the task, and the trio meets for their first study session. Yuiga quickly learns that despite their exceptional skills, both girls have entirely different academic goals and struggle in certain subjects. Fumino is terrible at mathematics, while Rizu is dreadful at English. They have been abandoned by every tutor they've had before. Rizu predicts that Yuiga will also give up on them once he realizes how difficult it is to teach them. Despite this, Yuiga decides to continue. Days pass, and after a week, there's no improvement. Their test scores even worsen, leading Yuiga to suggest that they teach each other their areas of expertise. Unfortunately, the geniuses can't explain what comes naturally to them. Yuiga then suggests that they might focus on what they excel at, which infuriates Rizu. She accuses him of being just like the other tutors and insists that no one will dictate her dreams. Both girls leave in anger. That night, Yuiga reflects on his next steps, remembering his father's advice that everyone makes mistakes. He finds a note inside the girls' notebooks and begins designing tailored study materials for them. The next morning, he apologizes and returns their notebooks, and after confirming girls would not change their minds, he gives them the study material he prepared, telling them he will continue to teach them. As they study together, Yuiga becomes embarrassed when the girls get close to him, as an average guy like him never had a chance to sit with two beauties. He learns that Rizu's family owns an udon restaurant. While walking home with Fumino, he learns she wants to become an astronomer because of her mother's favorite star. Later, he sees Rizu in a park playing card games by herself, taking a break from her deliveries. Playing with her, he learns that because she struggles to understand emotions, she is determined to study psychology. Yuiga returns home to his mother, his twin younger brother and sister, and his other younger sister, Mizuki, who has a brother complex and is furious that she can smell two girls' perfumes on him. The next day, while Yuiga is considering reporting the girls' progress to the headmaster, he is approached by Uruka, his middle school friend who often forgets to do her homework and asks for his help. As Yuiga meets with the headmaster, he learns that Uruka is an outstanding swimmer with a recommendation for a sports scholarship. Unfortunately, she is failing most of her subjects. To ensure she earns the scholarship, the headmaster asks Yuiga if he could also tutor Uruka, given their childhood friendship. Though reluctant, Yuiga has no choice but to accept. Yuiga goes to see Uruka, who is training in the pool. When he tells her that he will be her tutor, she initially makes some snide remarks but eventually admits she needs help. However, she is hesitant to accept tutoring, leading to a playful chase that ends with Yuiga slipping and falling into the pool. Unfortunately, he's bad at swimming. As Uruka helps him out of the pool, they are interrupted by Fumino and Rizu, who misunderstand the situation, and Fumino hits Yuiga on the head. After learning that Yuiga is also teaching Fumino and Rizu, Uruka immediately agrees to be tutored. Later, on her way home, Uruka looks at Yuiga's notebook and reminisces about how he was kind to her back then, supporting and praising her diligence in sports. This makes her blush, revealing she has a crush on him. Rizu is given 24 hours to rewrite an essay about civilization and asks for Yuiga's help. Uruka had invited Rizu to karaoke, but upon learning that she was with Yuiga alone at night at his house, she rushes there, claiming she also wants to study. Their study session is interrupted when a blackout occurs in Yuiga's neighborhood, causing Rizu to cling to Yuiga due to her fear of the dark. Seeing this, Uruka pretends to be scared too. Yuiga solves the problem by building an oil lamp so they can study until Uruka accidentally blows it out. The next morning, Rizu thanks Yuiga, telling him she managed to turn in an acceptable essay about civilizations forming around campfires. Meanwhile, Uruka learns that if she fails an English vocabulary test, she will be banned from the swimming club. The group starts a study session, but Uruka finds it hard because she doesn't find it fun. As she always gets distracted, Yuiga comes up with the idea to combine her swimming with studying. With this new teaching method, Uruka memorizes everything instantly and scores 100% on her test. On the way home, Uruka thanks Yuiga for always helping her and gives him a gift. Yuiga thinks being a tutor isn't too bad. However, upon reaching home, he is shocked to discover that the gift is Uruka's swimsuit instead of the pencil case she intended to give him. Realizing her mistake, Uruka is embarrassed. As their midterm exams approach, the headmaster orders Yuiga to help Fumino and Rizu score average or higher on their exams. After Yuiga leaves, Mafuyu Kurisu, the girl's former tutor, advises the headmaster to remove Yuiga as a tutor if they fail. Rizu and Fumino overhear their conversation, and Rizu tells Fumino that Yuiga will likely abandon them after the exam like all the other teachers. The next day, Rizu invites Yuiga to her family's restaurant for a study session while helping her family. Their study session continues into the night. Before Yuiga leaves, Rizu expresses her worry that Yuiga will stop being their tutor if they fail. She is relieved to learn that Yuiga plans to continue being their tutor regardless of the results. During the exam, Rizu found that most of the questions were covered in her study sessions and surprisingly scored above average in modern Japanese. Before the group can celebrate, Fumino's exam is still left. Unfortunately, Fumino gets a cold the day before her mathematics exam. Not wanting to miss it, Uruka and Yuiga decide to nurse her back to health. Yuiga arrives at Fumino's house and accidentally sees Uruka changing Fumino's clothes, earning him a scolding from Uruka. Uruka showcases her cooking skills during this time, daydreaming about her and Yuiga getting married. With all the effort the group pours into the exam, both girls pass with great scores. The headmaster is impressed, although Karisa-sensei has a hard expression on her face as she sees the results. Yuiga remains their tutor, though he ends up catching Fumino's cold. While preparing for swimming practice, Uruka is cornered by her teammates because she still hasn't confessed to Yuiga. To solve that problem, they plan a shopping trip after school. Her friends choose a pretty pink dress for her. While wearing the dress, she wanders the town and eventually bumps into Yuiga. She comes up with an excuse that she is going to the bookstore, and Yuiga decides to go with her. Uruka becomes embarrassed when people assume they are a couple, but they have a sweet time together. This makes Uruka think back to when she was a kid, longing to become a princess couple. As they leave the bookstore, they come across a couples-only competition for a toy set that Yuiga's sister really wants. Uruka holds Yuiga's hand and they join the competition, which they ultimately win. Afterward, Uruka asks Yuiga if her new clothes look nice, but she runs away before he can answer. Yuiga gets in trouble with Mizuki when she finds out about the competition. After a warm shower, Fumino steps on a weighing scale and is shocked by her actual weight. The next day at school, she wanders the hallways, thinking about what could have caused her weight gain. As she enters the room, both Uruka and Rizu offer her snacks and udon. Fumino is in the middle of eating when she realizes this might be the reason for her weight gain and decides to stop. Just then, Yuiga arrives with cheese tarts that his sister had baked. Over the next few days, each of her friends brings tasty food to share, including rare puddings, experimental udon, and even a whole cake. Fumino tries to ignore all the food by focusing on her studies, though not for long, as Yuiga notices her being unwell. During a study session with just the two of them, Fumino tries to reason that she isn't getting sick, but Yuiga notices she is too hungry. She then promptly explains her situation to him. He assures her that she is thin, but whatever the case, she is still pretty negative about the weight gain, even inviting Yuiga to feel her stomach. However, Yuiga is distracted by her soft and smooth skin as he touches her. When Fumino points out his distraction, he mutters the word, "dangerous," making Fumino think he meant she was dangerously close to being fat. The confusion is corrected, and on their way home, Yuiga sees Fumino buying snacks and learns she believes studying at night burns more calories, so she overeats after school. Fumino's weight returns to normal. Meanwhile, Rizu is confronted by Sawako Sekijo, president of the science club, who is convinced that Rizu loves Yuiga and began studying psychology because of him. Rizu denies it and leaves, saying she has a study session with Yuiga at her home. To confirm her doubts, Sekijo follows her. During their study session, Sekijo decides to see if she can make Rizu jealous by being close to Yuiga. She asks Yuiga embarrassing questions, but Rizu shows no reaction and doesn't stop writing. Unfortunately, Yuiga thinks he's becoming popular and that a girl likes him. The two end up getting kicked out of the house because of their noise. Outside, Yuiga learns that the president only wanted to be friends with Rizu, though she hid it quite well. Her mission didn't fail entirely, as she noticed Rizu blushing when Yuiga patted her on the head. Before leaving, Yuiga hints that they should study in the library next time. The next day, Uruka arrives at school in a hurry but soon realizes she forgot to wear her bra. She spends the day terrified that Yuiga might find out. During a basketball game, she is so focused on hiding her breasts that Yuiga worries she is ill. She decides to act normally only to fall with her breasts in Yuiga's face. It turns out he is used to this as his sister Mizuki frequently goes braless at home. Mizuki later punishes him for noticing that she is actually wearing a bra. All the students arrive at their destination for Ichino's Academy's 3-day mountain study camp. While everyone is excited, Yuiga is preoccupied with thoughts of the mountain udon plant, planning to pick some to bring home to his sister. However, a teacher drags him away before he can do so. Rizu, watching the entire scene, catches Fumino's attention. When Fumino asks why she is staring at Yuiga, Rizu, as usual, doesn't even realize she's doing it. Now aware, she becomes super conscious about looking at and talking to Yuiga. She tries to deny her feelings, even though she feels uneasy when Yuiga talks to other girls, blaming it on a lack of calcium. At the vending machine, Rizu struggles to reach the buttons. Yuiga comes to help her, but she immediately gets a sour expression, avoids eye contact, and excuses herself to go outside. Realizing she was being mean, Rizu recalls Yuiga wanted to get some mountain udon, and decided to pick some for him. She goes deeper into the forest, unaware of the bad weather. After gathering enough udon, a sudden rainstorm starts, and she realizes she has lost her way back. Back in the dormitories, Yuiga notices the sudden rain and is approached by Sekijo, who asks about Rizu's whereabouts. Remembering she went out earlier, he sets out to look for her in the forest. Miserable and lost, Rizu daydreams about Yuiga coming to rescue her, only for him to actually arrive. Embarrassed at being rescued, she falls and accidentally kisses him. Rizu tries to act like nothing happened, even when their teacher forces them to clean the baths as punishment. Due to Rizu failing to hang the "Do not enter" sign outside, she wears it around her neck. The bath is suddenly filled with girls undressing and preparing for a bath. Yuiga, worried since no amount of explanation would get him out of trouble if he is found in the girls' bath, hides in the sauna at Rizu's insistence. Unfortunately, Rizu gets overwhelmed and makes up a lame excuse. This results in both Fumino and Uruka entering the sauna, forcing Rizu to strip and join them. Thinking quickly, Yuiga hides underneath the bench, with Fumino, Rizu, and Uruka sitting above him. Fumino almost finds him, but he is saved by Sawako, who figures out what happened and tries to help him escape. Unfortunately, he bumps into Uruka and sees her completely naked, though Uruka is so shocked she convinces herself she is hallucinating. Later, Rizu apologizes for causing so much trouble and assures Yuiga that the kiss was an accident. Yuiga gives a report on the girl's progress to Ms. Kurisu, who reveals she knows about the kiss. Kurisu accuses Yuiga of not being a suitable tutor for the girls due to his incident with Rizu. When he tries to explain, Fumino bursts into the room to defend him as she hears something about inappropriate behavior. Unfortunately, her explanation about when he touched her stomach in the library and saw her naked when she was sick only makes things worse. After she leaves, Uruka and Rizu follow suit, each giving their excuse for an inappropriate run-in with Yuiga. Uruka tells Kurisu about them getting carried away in the swimming pool, while Rizu explains about him being in the girls' bath. As one could imagine, this doesn't help his case. When Yuiga thinks he is done for, Kurisu decides to let him go, stating that despite everything, the girls really care for him. Later, Yuiga spots Kurisu's injured hand and realizes she had been looking for Rizu in the mountains too, proving she secretly cares about the students. The next day, while talking to his friends, one of them finds out that Yuiga had kissed one of the girls. Uruka overhears this in the hallway and becomes disheartened, unable to concentrate during her one-on-one session with Yuiga. When she asks about the kiss, Yuiga can't deny it, causing Uruka to run away, making an excuse that she has club practice. She regrets hiding her feelings for so long and, with tears in her eyes, admits it is her fault for letting it drag out since middle school. Fortunately, Fumino finds her and talks to her about it. Disguising her feelings as her friend being in that situation, Fumino can figure out she is talking about herself and Yuiga. Still, Fumino encourages Uruka to go for it, promising to support her friend. Rizu arrives just in time to see the two hugging, but as Uruka leaves, she hears more rumors. Rizu, hearing these girlfriend rumors, keeps dropping her books. Fumino, who is good at reading people, immediately gets the idea that Rizu might be the one Yuiga kissed. The next morning, Uruka and Rizu's scores drop dramatically due to the rumor, causing Fumino to realize they both like Yuiga. Yuiga later asks Fumino if she knows what happened with Rizu and Uruka. Not wanting to reveal anything, she instead tells him that girls' hearts are hard to understand. Meanwhile, Uruka's swimming friends decide to help her to seduce Yuiga. Uruka alters her uniform to be more revealing and asks Yuiga to walk home together. During their walk, Uruka tries to get close to him, while Yuiga tries his best to maintain distance. Their awkward walk ends at a shrine. Uruka pretends to fall asleep, as her friends suggested, to see how he reacts and becomes embarrassed when he starts licking her, only to realize it was stray cats. Uruka later discovers Yuiga is flustered due to her more exposed breasts, which makes her happy. Yuiga later becomes confused when Uruka's test scores inexplicably improve again. While Fumino is talking to Yuiga, she trips and falls into his arms. From a passerby's perspective, it looks like they are hugging. Fumino is worried someone might see them, and as luck would have it, Rizu appears with an angry scowl on her face. Fumino thinks Rizu is mad about what she saw, so she gives Yuiga the task of holding hands with Rizu in the classroom to calm her down. Unfortunately, Rizu's expression doesn't change at all. To make up for it, Fumino pushes Yuiga into Rizu, thinking it would result in a hug, but instead, he falls right into Rizu's breasts. Both Yuiga and Fumino get scolded by Rizu, who reveals she only looked angry due to wearing her old glasses and never actually saw what happened. Later, while walking home, Yuiga sees a cat stuck in a tree. Being the good person he is, he tries to get it down. That's when Carissa comes across him and notices what he is doing. She helps, and as the cat jumps off, she gracefully catches it but sprains her ankle when she lands on a rock. Yuiga has no choice but to help her get home. Although she insists she is fine, a huge ruckus in her apartment after she enters tells otherwise, so Yuiga goes in. He is surprised to find his strict teacher's apartment very messy. Nonetheless, since he helped Karisu, she offered him some coffee. Karisu decides to tutor Yuiga, and after a few hours, Yuiga faces her and tells her he can't hold it any longer, which Karisu misunderstands. Yuiga insists on tidying up and finds her figure skating awards. Karisu explains she was a genius skater but had to give it up, which is why she wants the girls to use their talents since she was unable to use hers. After Yuiga leaves, Karisu reveals she was extremely flustered having a man in her room. Afterward, Yuiga tells Fumino about what happened. Fumino, thinking of her friend's feelings, warns Yuiga not to tell anyone about it. She is so concerned about him spending time in a girl's apartment at night that she drags him to a tree and pins him to it, making it seem like a task about understanding girls. As it often happens in high school, those who see this misinterpret it, thinking that Fumino and Yuiga are dating. Fumino's classmates pester her about it, and Yuiga doesn't help the rumor when he says they have a special relationship and picks her up from their room. Yuiga becomes the target of Fumino's fan club, who want to make sure he is worthy. At first, they are disappointed at the lack of romance they see and decide they are certainly just studying. The spying ends prematurely, and what's more, they even end up studying too. Eventually, they decide it is enough that Fumino trusts Yuiga, and the dating rumor is abandoned, much to Fumino's relief. Yuiga shows off his brand new cell phone, which his mother won in a draw and the entire family used, but he is still happy to have something that will help with studying. However, his enthusiasm doesn't help him much as he is helpless when it comes to technology. Uruka assists the depressed Yuiga in searching for effective study methods and finds a website suggesting that studying in the bath is more effective. That night, Yuiga tries studying in the bath, using his phone while in the tub. When he tries using the search engine on his phone, he accidentally texts Fumino, who is in the bath herself. She becomes shy about texting a boy while in the bath and has thoughts about Yuiga, chastising herself as she is really supportive of Uruka and Rizu. The next time Yuiga tries using his phone, he accidentally calls Rizu. Her father picks up first and tries to intimidate him. When Rizu takes the phone, she gets flustered, and they both become embarrassed at the thought of communicating while naked. Lastly, while using voice commands, Yuiga accidentally calls Uruka. When Uruka tries to put the call on speaker, she accidentally opens the video call. They both get embarrassed by the blunder and worse, Yuiga's phone falls into the water. The next day, Yuiga is depressed while Uruka is embarrassed because of the video call. The group continues with their studies, and Uruka in particular is getting good at her work. Later, it seems that Uruka has trouble taking care of herself, but actually, she is worried about her performance in both fields, leading her to study late at night even though she is dead tired. The next morning, as Yuiga and Uruka are walking to school, she collapses, and Yuiga takes her to the infirmary. There, he praises Uruka for all the effort she has put in and notes that whoever she likes must be one lucky guy. When she unexpectedly stirs in her sleep, Yuiga leans forward to check on her, but she reaches out and hugs him, causing him to freeze in place. Just then, the swim team arrives, causing Yuiga to panic and hide under the bed. While hiding, Yuiga hears them talking about Uruka being in love with him, causing him to become flustered around her. Although he doesn't really know what to do about it, he finds himself spending more time with Uruka, who wants to thank him for bringing her to the nurse earlier. The two have a nice time considering the circumstances and go out to eat ramen. On the way home, Uruka asks him if he likes anyone, but he claims he will not be thinking about relationships until after final exams. In turn, Yuiga asks if she likes him, but she denies it. Yuiga is walking by himself studying when again he comes across Kurisu, who is sitting outside her apartment even though it is a hot day. Yuiga tries to pass through while greeting the teacher, but she holds on to him as he goes. Yuiga gets dragged again into her apartment, which by this time is gaining dirt. It's revealed that she was sitting outside due to the cockroach. Yuiga tries to kill it, but just seeing the critter makes the teacher jump into Yuiga's arm, allowing it to escape. After that, Yuiga cleans the place, but when he tries to leave, still scared, Kurisu asks him to stay. Yuiga decided to study, and it took them until nighttime. Kurisu then orders food from Rizu's restaurant, not knowing Rizu works there, and Rizu delivers it. Now he is put in another precarious situation as Rizu joins them for dinner. He can feel the tension in the air. Rizu wants him to tell her what is going on, and Kurisu doesn't want him to do so since it's embarrassing. Yuiga instead asks them all to play Rizu's card game, hoping it would make the atmosphere change into a friendlier one, unfortunately, but this makes it worse as Rizu loses repeatedly. Yuiga takes the chance to tell Rizu someone does care for her, but Rizu misinterprets this, not knowing he means Kurisu. The cockroach reappears and Kurisu again clings to Yuiga. When Rizu sees the teacher paralyzed with fear by the cockroach, she smacks it with a piece of paper. A few days later, Yuiga's mom gets too sick for work. Being the good kid, he decides to volunteer at her job, not knowing she works at a lingerie store. He goes into the store, and when the manager sees how embarrassed he is, she dresses him as the mascot before she leaves due to her daughter getting a fever in school. Now he is only the employee left in the store. To Yuiga's horror, Uruka and Rizu visit the shop where they ask that Rizu be measured for a new bra and pick out an underwear set for Uruka that she asked a third-year boy would like, and it is still not over. After they left, Kurisu-sensei actually stuck in one of the dressing rooms called to him for help unhooking her bra, and of course, since she didn't know he is a guy, she just let the bra fall from her breast to the ground right in front of the mascot. But wait, there's more. It is for Fumino's turn to make an entrance as she felt embarrassed shopping with Uruka and Rizu. She asks the mascot for different sizes, hoping her chest size grew. She goes inside the changing room and the manager returns. Yuiga is finally freed from the suit by the manager, but Fumino comes out, and knowing the mascot is Yuiga, she becomes catatonic from shock. Summer breaks arrive. It's time to enjoy and relax on the beach, but Yuiga uses this opportunity to enroll himself in a prep school, with the school paying for his expenses due to his tutoring performance. Before class starts, he is approached by a small purple-haired girl who Yuiga thinks is too young for the class. She sits next to him and Yuiga thinks she is a middle schooler who got into the wrong room and asks her about it. She gets mad and shows her ID and reveals she is 19, and Kaminami is also his senior. She failed during her first year of trying to get into medical school and is now in her second year of reviews. The class began, and even though Yuiga was excited about studying, he fell behind in the lessons. He quickly finds that prep schools aren't easy to handle. They don't miraculously boost your grades by just attending. By break time, Kominami lends her some notes to copy, and with that Yuiga is able to get through the day. Kaminami has already left, but he still wants to thank her. While walking back, he becomes lost and has no idea which way the station was. Suddenly 2 big guys appear out of nowhere and drag him into a maid cafe. Regardless, Yuiga is still uncomfortable with all the girls dressed as cute maids tending to him, and more so because it costs money. He rushes towards the exit, but at the same time Kominami enters the cafe dressed as a maid. Shocking surprise for both of them. She reveals that she's working part-time to put herself through medical school and is actually popular in the cafe. Yuiga soon learns that Kaminami is actually bad at science, and so Yuiga stays and helps her study. The next day, he comes again to help her because other maids bribe him with free drinks. Afterwards, on his way home, he bumps into a doctor as Kaminami in her maid outfit brings him the train pass he forgot, and discovers the doctor is her father. Yuiga finds himself in an awkward situation. Kaminami's dad is a nice person. Wanting to hide her job, Kaminami claims Yuiga is her boyfriend. Kaminami's father argues with his daughter about pursuing medicine again. Yuiga, just like what he did for the girls, supports Kaminami's decision and promises to tutor her, which her father surprisingly accepts. A few days later, Yuiga is tutoring the girls at a restaurant, and they meet Kaminami. The very next day, all 3 of them begin attending cram school. Yuiga explains he is tutoring the girls and is actually proud of them that they enroll in the school themselves. Unfortunately, they too also find it hard during their first day, but like what she did for Yuiga, Kaminami also helps them. Just as they're about to go home, rain starts to pour and Kaminami invites them to her home first to wait it out. Everyone gets wet though, and Yuiga is able to see Uruka wearing the underwear he had picked, much to their embarrassment. Fumino says her thanks to Kaminami's father and learns that Yuiga is Kaminami's boyfriend. She confronts Yuiga about it, but fortunately Kaminami herself clears the confusion. Based on her reactions, Kaminami theorizes that maybe Fumino has feelings for Yuiga. When Kaminami asks Yuiga which girl he likes, he realizes he has given it much thought. Kaminami decides to continue teasing him flirtatiously. All the teachers are having a night out, but as per usual Carissa declines the offer. On her way home, she contemplates how she never fits these kinds of scenes. She spots Yuiga hanging out at the entrance of a maid cafe and grabs his shoulder. She asks him what he is doing there. Yuiga is about to be in trouble when Kominami shows up and promptly explains the situation. It reveals that Kaminami used to be one of her students. When Carissa questions Kaminami about working there or even about her continued goal of becoming a doctor. Still, Carissa is more concerned about getting Yuiga out of the cafe. So Kaminami grabs Yuiga and says perhaps Carissa doesn't like his choice of a girlfriend. As a result, Carissa grabs his other arm, and so Yuiga becomes the rope in their tug of war. Poor guy, he only wants to study, but their ruckus causes more trouble than intended. Carissa suddenly trips and accidentally injures another waitress. To fill in the gap, Kaminami appoints Carissa as temporary help and makes wear a maid outfit. She even makes her practice greeting her master with Yuiga, only to make her clean and not interact with customers much. Yuiga sees Carissa being beautiful in that outfit, but of course, cleaning is not her strong suit, and within minutes she trips and Yuiga ends up cleaning the mess. Afterward, the crew celebrates with drinks and Kominami admits the great impact Carissa had on her life, although she was always against her dreams. Carissa then accidentally gets drunk after taking a sip of alcohol, requiring Yuiga to carry her home, and Carissa, opposite of her usual self, praises every student she has, especially Yuiga. A few days later, Carissa has to go to work on a weekend, but with no clean clothes is forced to wear her old school uniform. Now embarrassed and looking like a high schooler, she is pretty confident that no one would see her at school since it was summertime. Unfortunately, she is stopped by a police officer for driving while looking underage, only for a passing Yuiga to save her. He even guessed right why she is wearing her old clothes, and so Carissa gives him a ride to school so he can return library books while she retrieves paperwork. After successfully completing the task, her car runs out of gas, forcing them to walk home. Yuiga notices she is looking longingly at a group of students gathered around an ice cream shop, prompting him to ask about her high school life. She reveals that she didn't have enough time to enjoy going out because she was focused on figure skating, so Yuiga made her way by the bench while he bought them each a cone of ice cream. The two had a friendly time together, that is until they see Fumino and Rizu buying as well. They are forced to hide in some bushes. They decide to wait, hoping for them to leave, but nothing is going well. Unfortunately, Carissa let out a scream when the ice cream melted on her neck. Out of desperation, Yuiga pretends they are a kissing couple, causing the two girls to flee in embarrassment. They finally make it to Carissa's apartment, only to be spotted by Kaminami. Uruka and Yuiga are studying alone, but unlike the past times, they become so awkward that they can't even talk. Later they tell everything to Fumino. Even Yuiga uses the whole "my friend is in this situation." Yuiga says that his friend asks the girl if she likes him but denies, while Uruka also asks for advice from Fumino. Not wanting to take a side, Fumino advises the two of them to meet and talk it out, well, more like she advises their friends, and the two actually pull through with it. Yuiga and Uruka sit down by a bench and decide to talk it out, but actually, there is not much talking going on, so the two text Fumino simultaneously seeking help for their friend. Fumino already anticipated that and wore a disguise to spy on them. As they texted her, she was literally sitting right behind them. She almost gets caught too, but since her disguise involves patting her brow, the two never figure out it is actually her. Fumino tries to give good advice, but Yuiga and Uruka are constantly reminded of all their embarrassing moments. Due to texting Sawako as well, Fumino accidentally tells Yuiga to compliment Uruka's hair. Yuiga tells Uruka she looks cute in her ponytail, which ends up working. As Uruka's summer tournament is right around the corner, despite having summer classes, Yuiga is there to support his friend, but unfortunately their team gets disqualified when a second-year member, Ikeda, makes a false, but Yuiga is impressed that Uruka comforted Ikeda despite it being her last tournament. As it concerns Yuiga asks, she says that she will do everything possible first before crying, but she said if he really wanted to cheer her up he should hang out with her tonight. The two make their way and snuck into their old middle school, where she reminisces about first falling in love with Yuiga. They make their way to the pool and relax as they talk again. It seems the romantic tension is still there. Yuiga remembers that she denied being in love with him, so he asks Uruka if she has confessed to the boy she likes, which she has not, so he insists on practicing. Uruka somehow agrees, but only on the condition that he calls her by her first name right then and there. He calls her Uruka and Uruka decides to actually confess. Unfortunately, a dense Yuiga thinks she is still practicing. She pushes him into the pool and gets him to agree to call her by her first name. When Yuiga calls her by her first name, she can't help but blush and hide underwater. Rizu invites Fumino, Uruka, and Sawako to a sleepover study group where, without Yuiga, the girls end up asking Sawako for help. The festival is here and everyone in town is excited. Yuiga along with his younger siblings and mother also arrives. They see Fumino and Uruka both wearing traditional Japanese kimonos. Fumino then asks whether or not they looked good, hoping Yuiga would praise Uruka. He did though, but he noted that Fumino looked natural in the kimonos, not that it bothered Uruka, though it was enough for her to hear that he thought she is beautiful. Yuiga's mother tells him to attend the festival with his friends, so Fumino goes off on her own, leaving Yuiga with Uruka. Uruka and Yuiga have a nice time and come across a food stall run by Rizu and her father. Their stalls are getting swarmed with customers. They decide to help Uruka help Rizu's father in the kitchen, and Yuiga joins Rizu in the deliveries. Meanwhile, all this time Fumino is alone eating tokiyaki, looking up at the mesmerizing night sky. Little by little the deliveries are finally done, and Rizu returns to her stall, leaving Yuiga behind. He then notices apparently a familiar pin-haired lady wearing a mask is winning every prize there in the shooting game stall. It reveals she is Karisu. Due to embarrassment she runs and slips, injuring herself. Yuiga is left with no choice but to give a piggyback ride again to the medical tent. Surprisingly, it is run by Kominami and her father. Since the two are very busy on their own, Kominami has an embarrassed Yuiga treat Karisu himself. It is getting late and the festival has died down. Fumino rushes down the stairs only to see a crying child who is lost. Yuiga is also late going home after receiving thanks from his supposed father-in-law. He also finds a child who got lost. Coincidentally, that child and the one Fumino helped were sisters. The two of them meet at the station, missing the last train home. They start walking, but when Fumino's feet are getting sore from walking on sandals, they think it is better to check into an inn. To avoid suspicion, Fumino claims that they are siblings. The innkeeper informs them there is one room left. It becomes more awkward because the room has one futon. The two are extremely awkward about the whole thing. It reaches the boiling point when their backs are touched underneath the blanket. Wanting to lift the awkwardness, Yuiga tries to think of a topic, but when he looks out the window he is so amazed by the night sky that he immediately calls Fumino's attention. To distract themselves, they end up stargazing, and Fumino recalls her favorite book from her mother, who had perhaps passed away due to an illness. Her mother used to say that she wasn't really gone, just up in the stars much like the ones in her book, so that's why Fumino is so interested in astrology. Yuiga thinks it is admirable for Fumino to have a dream, whereas he has no idea what his dream is. Fumino assures him she will be there to support him when he figures it out. After sharing cherished memories, they fell asleep snuggled close like lovers. In the end, the next morning on the train, they embarrassingly make their way home. Hearts race when their eyes meet as the journey ends. Yuiga and Fumino bid each other farewell, walking away in opposite directions.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.